I own your house, Eleanor. Her $700 heels froze mid-stride on my driveway, her face transforming from arrogant fury to slack-jawed horror. The HOA tyrant, the neighborhood scourge who'd been threatening to tow my classic cars just moments before, suddenly realized she'd picked a fight with the secret owner of half the neighborhood, including the meticulously landscaped property she currently stood on. The official violation notices she held trembled in her manicured hand. "That's impossible," she stammered, color draining from her face. But the property records, soon to be very public, proved otherwise. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Ever seen a power-hungry HOA president target the wrong resident? This is how a quiet widower with 5 vintage cars dismantled years of petty corruption and delivered long-overdue justice to a community held hostage. It all started on a peaceful Saturday morning last April. I was deep in the zone, restoring my '67 Ford Mustang, one of 5 classics that are more therapy than hobby. This Mustang was special. My late wife, Laura, and I had started it together before cancer took her 3 years ago. Working on these cars, feeling the metal, the history, it's how I cope. I was carefully sanding the hood, lost in the rhythm, when a sharp voice sliced through the garage's calm. "Excuse me, Mr. Miller." I looked up. Eleanor Vance, self-appointed neighborhood watchdog, HOA chairperson extraordinaire, stood at the edge of my driveway, phone already out, snapping pictures like she was documenting a felony. Her perfectly coiffed blonde bob didn't budge as she marched up my driveway in designer flats that cost more than my monthly grocery bill. "This is completely unacceptable," she declared, gesturing wildly at the driveway where my '59 Pontiac, '69 Camaro, and '70 Chevelle were parked. My daily driver was beside the Mustang in the garage. According to Section 4.2b of the Willow Creek Bluffs HOA Supplementary Guidelines from 2019, she recited, voice dripping with condescension, "Each household is permitted a maximum of 2 vehicles visible. You have," she paused for dramatic effect, counting on her fingers, .5. "That's 3 violations." She practically vibrated with glee at catching me. I set down the sandpaper, wiped my hands on a rag, took a centering breath. Laura always said I was too accommodating. "Good morning to you too, Eleanor," I said, keeping my voice even. "All these vehicles are registered to me, parked entirely on my property, not blocking anything. I've reviewed the guidelines. That addendum about vehicle limits was never properly voted on by the community, as required by Section 1.3 of the Charter." Her nostrils flared. She wasn't used to residents knowing the bylaws. "That's irrelevant. The board approved it. You're in violation," she snapped. "You'll receive formal notice. $500 fine per extra vehicle, plus a monthly $250 fee for each until removed. Consider this your final warning." She spun on her heel, phone already glued to her ear, likely reporting her triumph to one of her cronies. As she stormed off, my elderly neighbor, Arthur Finch, observed from his porch. The 78-year-old former military man, a resident for 30 years, shook his head and ambled over. "Don't let her get to you, son," he said, his weathered face creasing sympathetically. "Power trip since she got elected. Last week? Violation for Sarah Jenkins, that nice young single mother down the street. Unapproved flora. Planted some marigolds her kid picked out. Never seen an approved flora list in my 28 years here." Over iced tea in my garage, Arthur painted a grim picture of Eleanor's 2-year reign. Violations and fines up over 70%. Little money for actual improvements. Tennis courts still cracked, he sighed. Canceled the block party, budget constraints. Yet they found funds for new neighborhood watch signs featuring her contact info prominently. Later, staring at the formal violation notice delivered with astonishing speed, $1,500 initial fine, plus $750 per month ongoing, my gaze fell on the photo on the mantle, Laura and me, grinning against the Mustang the day we bought it. "You always said I was too nice," I whispered to her picture. "Maybe it's time." I picked up the phone, dialing my old college friend, Jessica Bell, a sharp property law attorney. "Hey, Jessica," I began. "Remember that HOA issue I mentioned? It just escalated. I think I need your help." I didn't know it then, but that call lit the fuse. For the first time since Laura passed, determination sparked within me. Eleanor Vance had poked the wrong quiet guy. Jessica arrived the next evening, armed with legal pads and a laptop. We spread HOA bylaws, newsletters, public financial statements, and a neighborhood map across my dining table. Okay, David, start from the beginning. I recounted the run-in, showed her the notice demanding $4,500 in cumulative fines. Jessica's eyebrows vanished into her hairline. This is absurd, she muttered, and likely unenforceable. Let's dig. Hours flew by. Jessica tracked violations versus meeting minutes. A disturbing pattern. 78% of violations hit residents who questioned Eleanor or weren't in her clique. Her allies, like VP Richard Sutton, got passes. Richard's massive boat sat in his driveway year-round, a clear violation. Classic selective enforcement, Jessica noted. Legally problematic. The finances were worse. Nearly $60,000 in fines collected last year, yet statements were vague. Administrative expenses, miscellaneous maintenance, no details. Where's the money going? Jessica mused. Let's see who actually owns property here. Voting power follows ownership. That's when the ground shifted. Through my company, Millstone Investments, I'd quietly bought 17 houses in Willow Creek Bluffs over the last 5 years, nearly 46% of the neighborhood. After Laura died, investing here felt right. Using 3 shell companies: Oak Ridge Properties, Maple Creek Management, Cedar Point Holdings, I acquired properties discreetly, often keeping tenants with fair rents. A legal strategy to avoid undue attention. Jessica looked up from her laptop, eyes wide. David, she said slowly, do you realize what this means? You have more voting power than the entire HOA board combined. You could overrule any decision. It dawned on me. I hadn't intended this as leverage, just sound investment. Now, accidentally, I held immense power. The next day, I sought out Sarah Jenkins. Found her at the mailboxes, juggling mail while her daughter skipped nearby. I introduced myself, offered help. As we walked, she shared her story. Moved here post-divorce, hoping for a fresh start. Within weeks, the violation for her daughter's marigolds. $400 fine for unapproved landscaping, she sighed. Worse, Eleanor threatened investigation for her online piano lessons, unauthorized home business. The stress was palpable. My anger simmered. This wasn't just about cars. Eleanor was bullying vulnerable residents. I gave Sarah my number, told her to call if issues persisted. Didn't mention my ownership. Not yet. Returning home, an unexpected visitor, Thomas Green, the HOA secretary, waited nervously. Shouldn't be here, he whispered inside. What Eleanor's doing? It's wrong. Targeting people. Finances don't add up. He revealed Eleanor called an emergency executive meeting about me. Voted to increase surveillance, find more violations. Crucially, Thomas confirmed Eleanor received my company's property purchase notification 3 years ago. Saw it in her HOA email, marked important, but never officially recorded or disclosed. Suppressing information, Thomas explained. And she just modified bylaws in a closed meeting prohibiting resident groups without board approval. Trying to stop organizing. As he left, he added, police might show up. Eleanor filed a bogus noise complaint about your restoration work. She's escalating. For now, I decided to pay the initial fines. Avoid attention while Jessica and I strategized. Eleanor thought she held all the cards. She had no idea I owned half the deck. The quarterly HOA meeting crackled with unusual tension. The community center room, smelling faintly of chlorine and lemon cleaner, was packed. Eleanor stood at the front, Richard Sutton her loyal shadow, Thomas looking uneasy. I took a back seat near Arthur. Welcome, Eleanor began, radiating false warmth. Today, we launch our Model Neighborhood Initiative to enhance property values. What followed was a litany of new restrictions, stricter paint codes, trash convisibility rules, landscaping regulations, and crucially, enhanced vehicle restrictions. Not just the 2-car limit, but mandatory HOA vehicle registration and monthly parking assessment fees. When questions opened, I raised my hand. Eleanor's smile tightened. Mr. Miller, she acknowledged icily. I stood. Thank you, Eleanor. 2 questions. First, these new regulations bypass bylaw procedures requiring notice and community vote. Second, I request a detailed breakdown of HOA finances, specifically fine allocation. Silence. No one challenged her directly before. Crimson crept up her neck. Regulations fall under board executive authority. Finances were distributed in February. Don't waste time. Richard jumped in. People like you, disrespecting standards, are why we need stricter enforcement. A few residents nodded with my questions. Others shifted uncomfortably. Eleanor, sensing dissent, quickly ended discussion. Concerns noted. Moving on. New rules effective immediately. Outside, Jeffrey intercepted me. Emergency board meeting tomorrow. At Eleanor's. Targeting you and allies. Wants to make an example. 2 days later, I returned from shopping. My prized '59 Pontiac, the first car Laura and I restored, gone from the driveway. A tow notice in its place. Orange violation stickers plastered on my other cars. Extended stationary parking violation, a rule invented overnight. Retrieve the Pontiac, $2,000. Remaining violations, $1,500. Cold fury washed over me. This was personal. Jessica, I said into the phone, they towed my car. Time to stop playing defense. Agreed, she replied instantly. HOA charter allows a special election request with 20% voting power. You have double that. Gazing at the empty space, Laura's voice, sometimes being kind doesn't mean being passive. We've been too gentle, I told Jessica, voice steady despite the rage. Time Eleanor felt something she values taken away. But legally, using her own system against her. Hanging up, I saw my reflection. Determined. The look I had fighting for Laura's treatment. Eleanor had awakened something dormant. Her reign was ending. I retrieved the Pontiac the next day, swallowing pride, paying the exorbitant fee. Smiled politely, signed papers, drove home. Let Eleanor's spies report my apparent defeat. Phase 1. Build a coalition. Invited Sarah and Arthur for dinner. Laid out Eleanor's selective enforcement, financial questions. Proposed an informal concerned residents group discreet communication, signal app, small meetings. Arthur grinned. About time. Sarah hesitated, fearing retaliation. I assured discretion. Within a week, 12 households joined, sharing stories. Thomas became our inside source. Phase 2. Gather evidence. Jessica and I documented inconsistencies, procedural violations. Hired a forensic accountant, paid via shell company. Preliminary findings, $75,000 unaccounted HOA funds over 3 years. Large sums vanished into undocumented administrative expenses. Eleanor sensed unrest. Thomas warned of a private board meeting where she amended bylaws, officially prohibiting unapproved resident groups targeting us. Notices appeared. Arthur cited for substandard yard maintenance. His garden was pristine. Sarah received a certified letter demanding home inspection for unauthorized business. Richard Sutton began emailing me daily violation photos. One threatened, vehicles removed by Friday or more definitive action. The implied threat, after the towing, was clear. I forwarded everything to Jessica. Phase 3. Activate ownership. Contacted legal auditors specializing in HOAs. Called my property management company. Need all ownership documents for the 17 Willow Creek properties. Current, notarized. Irrefutable proof. Eleanor called another emergency meeting, many allies mysteriously uninvited. Warned of threats to property values, disruptive factions. Pushed through a rapid vote, lacking quorum. Increasing fines to $1,000, explicitly banning disruptive groups. Thomas recorded it all. She's talking security cameras at entrances, he reported later, shaken. Sounds like monitoring who visits certain houses. Yours. Panic. Time to accelerate, I told Jessica. Draft the Form 207 notice for a special meeting. State law. Thomas helped gather signatures 23% of residents, eager for change. Jessica submitted the form, legally forcing Eleanor to schedule it. Saturday. I emailed every HOA member, formally requesting special meeting, Saturday 10 a.m., per bylaws. Agenda. Vote to recall current board. Respectfully, David Miller, representing 46% of voting rights. My phone exploded. Confused neighbors, furious calls from Eleanor and Richard ignored. Let them stew. The trap was set. Saturday morning, bright and clear. Community center packed by 9:30 a.m. Unprecedented turnout. I arrived with Jessica, setting up laptop, projector. Eleanor and Richard huddled, whispering frantically, I shooting daggers. Panic radiated from them. Thomas nodded discreetly. 10 a.m. sharp. Jessica called the meeting to order, citing the bylaw allowing the requester to preside. Eleanor leaped up. My HOA. I'm chairperson. Jessica calmly held up the meeting notice, signatures visible. State law and your bylaws dictate procedure. Mr. Miller has the floor. Eleanor sat, fuming, whispering to Richard, who typed furiously. I stood, calm. Thank you for coming. Willow Creek deserves transparent leadership. First slide. Neighborhood map. 17 properties highlighted blue. These are properties I own through Millstone Investments. A collective gasp. Through Oak Ridge, Maple Creek, and Cedar Point Holdings, acquired legally over 5 years. Together, 46% of HOA voting power. Eleanor shot up. Impossible. Lying. Disclosure required. Next slide. Ownership docs, county records, deeds. Possible legal. And I did disclose. Projected email, July 12th, 3 years prior, from my company to HOA address. Subject, property acquisition notification. Eleanor blanched, recognizing it. But ownership isn't the only issue. Next slide, financial audit results. $75,000 misappropriated funds. Resident fines diverted, no documentation. How dare you? Eleanor raged. Hostile takeover. Trying to destroy us. Appeal to the crowd. Can't you see? He's ruining everything. It fell flat. I outlined selective enforcement, procedural violations. Intimidated residents began speaking up, sharing their stories. The room's mood shifted definitively. I addressed the personal. Why invest? After Laura passed, wanted to protect our neighborhood. These classic cars. Our projects. My way of honoring her. Eleanor sneered. Oh, please. Living in the past, junk cars, making people feel sorry. Shocked silence. Residents recoiled. Even Richard looked uneasy. Her cruelty sealed her fate. Jessica showed the final slide. Screenshot proving Eleanor opened and marked my disclosure email important 3 years ago. Mrs. Vance was aware, concealed it, Jessica stated coolly. Thomas stood. As secretary, I witnessed suppressed info, altered minutes. Have recordings of closed meetings discussing bylaw violations. The vote was swift. My 46%, plus United Residents, removed Eleanor and Richard overwhelmingly. Nominated interim chairperson. As Eleanor tried storming out with HOA files, Thomas blocked her. Those belong to the HOA. You no longer represent it. She brushed past me. Not over, Miller. I smiled calmly. Transformation began immediately. Secured records. Police opened investigation based on our evidence. Embezzlement charges loomed for Eleanor. First meeting under new leadership. Optimism replaced tension. My reform plan, transparency, simplified rules, mediation committee. Build community, not adversaries. Enthusiastic approval. Outstanding fines reviewed. Sarah Jenkins, unanimously approved to lead mediation. Thomas became treasurer, promising accessible reports. Harold, special advisor. Eleanor hired an attorney. Threatening letters alleged fraudulent misrepresentation, conspiracy. Baseless, but stressful. She started a whisper campaign. I'd raise fees, change the neighborhood character. Appeared at the next meeting with her attorney, interrupting, accusing me of market manipulation. I calmly pointed out her rule against disruptions. The irony delighted residents. Addressed accusations directly. Revealed plans for a nonprofit housing trust using 10 of my properties for affordable rentals, including Sarah. Quality and community, I stated. Legal threats vanished as Eleanor's embezzlement case solidified. Bank records showed transfers to personal accounts. Gregory issued a public apology, withdrew. I declined permanent chair, advocating elections, HOA restructure. Sarah's committee became a model. Harold started a skills exchange. 6 months later, working on the Mustang. Bittersweet, nearly done. Sarah stopped by with her daughter, homemade cookies. Arthur arrived, then others. Impromptu gathering among the classic cars that started it all. Neighbors chatting, laughing. Felt Laura's presence. Gazed at her photo. See, sweetheart. Stood up. Got a whole community with me. The HOA exists, transformed. Success measured by neighborliness, welcome, pride. Sometimes greatest power isn't control, but creating space to thrive. Sometimes, a quiet man with 5 classic cars teaches that lesson. We document the madness so you don't have to. Like, share, subscribe,